Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for this video from Alpha One Enterprises. Today we're going to be doing a short Google Earth flight simulator tutorial, and we're here in Arizona today in the United States, pretty close to the Grand Canyon actually, and we're going to be doing some flying through the Grand Canyon. Now, theoretically speaking, this is probably pretty close to the beginning of when you've used Google Earth Flight Simulator, since this is a basic tutorial. But we decided that we needed some excitement, so we're going to be flying in the Grand Canyon. So first, to get started with the flight simulator, you want to go up here to your top bar, and it looks like this. You have Tools, and then you go down to Enter Flight Simulator, click on that, and it'll pop up with this little window here. You have two options. You have the F-16 fighter jet, and you have the SR-22 propeller airplane. Personally, my preference is the F-16. It is a lot faster, but on that same token, it handles a lot faster, so it responds better to what you're doing. The SR-22, on the other hand, is slower, so in this case, even though it doesn't handle quite as well, I want to use this since we're flying through the Grand Canyon. If you go too fast through the Grand Canyon, you will run into the walls. That's a bad thing. Next, you can select your start position, current view, which is what we're in now. So basically, the plane will just start dropping out of the sky, and this is what we want here since this is where we want to start. Otherwise, you can choose an airport. They have probably 20, 30, something like that airports. Los Angeles, Kilimanjaro, Buenos Aires, all different places from around the world. So you can experiment with that if you want. Today we're just going to use current view. Joystick support. If you have a joystick plugged into your computer, you can use it. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it because it puts these funny arrows on your screen, and I can show you what I mean by that here in a little bit. So I'm just going to uncheck this, and we're going to use our mouse for navigation. So I'm going to click Start Flight, and just as promised, the plane starts dropping out of the sky. So at this point, I'm going to hit the space bar to pause, just so we can talk about some things here. So what you're looking at is over here, on the left-hand side, this is your speed gauge. So right now we're going approximately 117 miles an hour, something like that. Over here is your altitude on the right-hand side. So we are currently 66,350-ish feet above sea level. And one thing to note about that is that this is sea level here. So don't expect to hit the ground when you get to zero. The ground could be much higher. In this case, our actual elevation, which you see right here, is 6571, whereas sea level is going to be 0. So just make note of that so you don't hit the ground accidentally. Right here in the center is your orientation. This is not quite as big of a deal as long as you can see where you're going in relation to the ground. This just lets you know, it tells you, how we're tilted and all that kind of stuff, and you'll be able to see that as we fly through. Over here we have our flaps indicator, and as you can see, I'm going to go ahead here and adjust this. By pressing F, the F key on your keyboard, you put the flaps out. 100% is all the way out. Press Shift F to bring them back in, and as you can see, the percentage reduces. Also, what's showing right here is your gear indication. Maybe. Okay, this is not working. I apologize for that. Okay, so we're flying right now. And if you press the G button, the gear should appear. It's not. I'm not quite sure why. I really apologize for that. But just know that right there is where your gear does sit. Let me try restarting this real quick, and maybe that'll help. Okay, see, we're in the SR-22, and the SR-22 doesn't have landing gear. It's just built in. So if we choose the F-16, then you can see by pressing that button, by the G button, that your gear comes in and out. I'm going to pause again. And then the other two things to make note of, and they're pretty small details, down here in the corner, you have eye altitude and elevation. The elevation tells you wherever your mouse is, and you can see that changing, wherever your mouse is, that gives you how high the ground is at that point. So just know that whenever the altitude showing up here matches the altitude that's showing down here, you are pretty much on the ground at that point. The eye altitude shows the exact same thing that your altitude indicator up here does. It's just that this is built into Google Earth. This is simply part of the flight simulator. One more quick tip. As you're flying, if you ever want to see what it looks like, without all of this computerized stuff on here, hit the H button, and that turns off the what's called heads up display. H is for heads up. Turns off the display. So a couple more keystrokes before we get started. As I mentioned, F extends the flaps. Shift F retracts them. G puts out your landing gear. When the gear sign is on, that is when the gear is down. When the gear sign is not showing, that means that your landing gear is not out and you will crash. That's a bad thing. One more keystroke. Page up makes you speed up. Page down makes you slow down. Quick note, down here in this corner you'll notice these little gauges. This one on the far left shows you where your throttle is. So right now we are paged all the way down, which is why the little arrow is all the way at the bottom. However, if we page up, you'll notice that that moves to the top. Page down, page up, so on and so forth. So other than that, that's about it. In our next tutorial, we will cover landing in Google Earth, and at that point, we will have a couple more keystrokes you'll have to worry about. So with no further ado, let's get started here. I'm going to clear off the drawing. Come back here to Google Earth. So some mouse maneuvers that you'll need to know that are very important for not crashing your plane. If you want to go up, you pull down to the bottom of the screen and make sure you can change from a cursor like this to a plus sign like this. The plus sign is what's controlling your plane. The cursor does absolutely nothing for your plane. So if you're trying to steer, always make sure that your mouse is a little plus sign. So to go up, you want to pull down. To go down, you want to push up. It's kind of backwards. If you had a joystick or were familiar with joysticks, it'd make a little bit more sense. Just know that, kind of like on a tripod, if you want the plane to go up, you need to push down. If you want the plane to go down, you need to push up. If you want to go left, there are some different techniques you can do, but the biggest thing is you move your mouse left to go left, move your mouse right to go right. So other than that, that's about it. So I'm going to hit the space bar to unpause this. And I want to go up, so I'm going to move my mouse to the bottom of the screen, and we naturally pull up. Okay, now we're going to fly in the Grand Canyon, so we want to slow down. So to slow down a lot, I want to put my flaps out. I'll just go 100%, and I want to push my page down button. At this point, once that little meter is all the way at the bottom of the screen, like you can see, I can stop pressing the page down button, and we'll just start flying into the canyon. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to pull in my gear. Now, a quick note on the orientation thing that I told you about at the very beginning there. I'm going to let the plane kind of fly itself here for a little bit. As you'll notice, as we twist, this little arrow moves across the screen. And that is so that you can see that the plane is tilted. If we move to the right, the little arrow moves the other way. All these numbers like 10 and -15 and 20 and -25, those tell you how far the plane is tilted forwards and backwards. So right now we're going down, so we have a negative number. -30, if I go down, shows up there. Go up, we have 0. So once I get this little arrow level with 0, that means that we are going perfectly level. If I start to go up, you'll notice the positive numbers start increasing. So I want to continue down here into the Grand Canyon. And I will do my best to not crash. If I do crash, you will be able to see what happens if you crash. Basically, it just ends the flight, says your aircraft has crashed. Would you like to resume flight or exit Flight Simulator? Okay, so we're pretty far into the canyon at this point. We are definitely below the what's considered the rim. I'm going to press page down some more because I'm okay with going this fast, but we're still going 390 miles an hour, as you can see, and I would rather go a little bit slower than that in such small confines. So you can see, we're flying over things, so we're pretty close to the ground here. So just be careful, if you choose to fly in the Grand Canyon like I am, that you give yourself plenty of room on top of all the little nooks and crannies and hills and stuff. I'm going to fly further down into the canyon. I'm getting braver, I guess. You can see the river below us, the mountains next to us. It's actually, once you get good at it, there are a few sections of the Grand Canyon, which I might highlight in another video. They're actually very nice for flying in. Put yourself in the SR-22, that slower airplane, just kind of cruise along. This actually, where we're flying, is one of my areas that I suggest. I'm just doing it a little bit faster than I like doing it. Okay, so I'm going to page up to speed up because we're getting too slow and we're about to crash. So I'm going to page up and then pull out of canyon. If you want to really go fast, hit Shift F and that will help you gain speed. So I think we're going to fly out of the canyon here and probably end this tutorial at this point. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at myalpha1int@gmail.com or go to alpha1int.com and go to the Contact Us page. Just feel free to send us a contact form or email us, call us, whatever you'd like to do. So, thank you for joining us.